A few years ago, a friend told me about a meeting she had had at her bank. She'd walked in with 20,000 euros she'd saved, asked the sensible question, "What should I do with this?" and walked out having signed into one of the bank's own funds, feeling like she'd done the responsible thing. When she mentioned it to me in passing, I did the math. The one polite, completely legal meeting was on track to quietly cost her more than 40,000 euros over her lifetime, for nothing she couldn't have had far more cheaply. And when I explained that to her, her first question was the right one. Can I undo this? But here's the thing, she was lucky. She happened to have a friend who'd spent 23 years inside banking. Most people don't. Most people never find out at all. And that is exactly why I'm making this video. I'm Ivan, and as you have probably gathered, those years were spent not at the counter, but in the rooms where these products are designed, priced, and signed off. Today, I'm answering a question I get more than almost any other. Are financial advisors actually worth it? I'll show you exactly what your advisor is selling you, and just as importantly, what they are not. I'll show you the one number that quietly decides how wealthy you end up. And I'll be honest about the handful of situations where paying for advice is genuinely one of the smartest things you can do. This is not a video about evil banks. It's a video about how the machine actually works so that you can walk into any bank in Europe and understand more about what's happening than most of the people sitting on the other side of the desk. If you saw my very first video, the 5 lessons I wish I'd known at 25, you'll remember that 2 of them were that fees quietly destroy your returns and that banks don't tell you everything about their own products. I gave each of those about 60 seconds back then. Consider this me finally giving that one idea the whole video it deserves. So, let me be completely clear before we take another step, because this matters to me. The person sitting across from you at the bank is, in almost every case, not a villain. They are not rubbing their hands together plotting to ruin your retirement. Most of them are decent people who genuinely believe they are helping you. And on the things that matter to them, they often are. But they are also salespeople. They have targets. They are trained on a particular menu of products. And the bank earns more when you choose some of those products than others. None of that requires anyone to be dishonest. It just requires the system to quietly reward one outcome over another. I spent 2 decades inside that system. I respect the people in it. And that's exactly why I can show you where your interest and the bank's interest gently, invisibly pull apart. So, here is what usually happens when you walk in and ask, what should I invest in? More often than not, you'll be guided toward an actively managed fund. Frequently, one run by the bank itself or by a partner. It will be presented as a carefully chosen, professionally managed, the sensible option for someone like you. And here is what almost nobody realizes. In the European Union, when a bank sells you an investment, the bar they have to clear is not, is this the best, cheapest option for this particular person? The standard is essentially suitability. Is this product not inappropriate for you? Suitable and best are very, very different words. A fund can be perfectly suitable for you and still be one of the most expensive ways you could possibly own the exact same companies. Nobody is required to hand you the cheapest door. They are only required not to push you through a clearly wrong one. And that brings us to the number nobody said out loud in my friend's meeting, the fee. A typical actively managed fund in Europe might charge you somewhere around 1.5% a year, sometimes closer to 2%. A simple, low-cost index fund that owns essentially the same global market might charge you around 0.2%. On paper, the gap looks trivial. Just over 1 percentage point. Who cares? Here is who cares. Take my friend's 20,000 euros. Say it grows at around 7% a year before fees, and she just leaves it alone for 30 years. In the low-cost fund, after fees, that 20,000 becomes roughly 140,000 euros. In the expensive fund, the same money, the same markets, the same 30 years, the only difference being that one fee, it becomes roughly 100,000. This is more than 40,000 euros. Gone. Not lost to a crash. Not lost to a bad bet. Quietly handed over, a thin slice at a time, every single year, for a product that in most cases did no better than the cheap one, and usually worse. Run that across a whole working life, across everything you will ever invest, and the number climbs far past 40,000. Low cost isn't a detail here. Very often, it is the entire game. And every figure I just gave you is simple compounding. Put it into a calculator yourself. I would much rather you checked than took my word for it. Now, at this point, a fair objection should be forming in your head, and you ought to be asking it. Surely you get what you pay for. If that fund costs more, it's because there is a clever, highly paid professional inside it actively picking the best companies and beating the market. That's worth paying for, isn't it? It's completely reasonable thought. It's also on the evidence almost exactly backwards. Every year, independent studies track how actively managed funds actually perform against the plain index they are trying to beat. And the same uncomfortable result comes back again and again. Over a single year, plenty of active funds beat the market. It's roughly a coin flip. But stretch the timeline out to 10 years and the picture collapses. The large majority of these funds, the figure commonly reported lands somewhere around 8 or even 9 in 10, fail to beat the boring index they were charging you all those fees to outperform. And it's actually worse than that because those numbers only count the funds that survived. A huge number of the worst performers quietly get closed down or merged away over the years, so they disappear from the table altogether. The real picture is bleaker than even the published figures suggest. So, why does this keep happening? It isn't that fund managers are stupid. Many of them are genuinely brilliant. It's that they are fighting two battles at once. The market is ferociously competitive, consistently outguessing millions of other smart, well-researched investors year after year after year is extraordinarily hard. And they are trying to do all of that while carrying that 1.5% fee on their back every single year. They don't just have to be good, they have to be good enough to beat the market and claw back their own costs on top of it. Most, over time, simply cannot. So, you are very often paying a premium price for a below-average result. That is not getting what you pay for. That is the exact opposite. So, if the expensive, professionally chosen fund is the worst way in, what is the opposite? For most ordinary people building wealth over time, the honest answer is simple. A single, low-cost, broadly diversified index fund, the kind I walked through in my video on the best all-world fund, bought regularly and then left alone. By the way, all the other videos I mentioned here are linked in the description below. Anyway, back to this cheaper fund. It owns thousands of companies across the whole world. It costs a fraction on what the bank's fund costs. And it needs no advisor, no annual review meeting, no relationship. This is not a trick or a loophole. It is simply what's left over once you remove the layer that was quietly being paid out of your returns. Now, I don't want you walking out of here distrusting every person in a suit. I want you walking in armed. So here are the 3 questions And if you remember nothing else from this video, remember these. Ask them out loud, politely, and watch what happens. 1. What is the total all-in annual cost of this? Every fee in a single number. Not the headline figure, the all-in number. If they can't or won't give it to you simply, that already tells you something. 2. Are you required to recommend the best option for me or only one that is suitable? That one question quietly exposes the entire structure we just talked about. And 3. Is this your own bank's product? And do you or the bank earn more if I choose it over the alternatives? You are allowed to ask that. It's your money. A good advisor will answer all 3 without flinching. And if the temperature in the room suddenly drops, well, that is also your answer. And here is where I have to be just as honest in the other direction, because the lazy version of this video would tell you every advisor is a fraud and you never need one. This is not true, and you deserve better than a cartoon. There are real situations where good advice is worth every single cent. If your finances are genuinely complex, you are self-employed across 2 countries, you have a tangle of tax to sort out, you are planning an inheritance or selling a business, a good advisor can save you far more than they ever charge. And if you know, honestly, that you are the kind of person who will panic and sell everything the first time the market falls 40%, then someone who talks you off the ledge and keeps you invested might be the most valuable purchase of your financial life. The distinction that matters is not advisor, yes or no, it's what kind. Be cautious with someone paid by commission to sell you products. Be open to an independent, fee-only advisor, someone you pay directly by the hour or a flat fee, who does not earn a cent more for steering you into one fund over another. Once you remove the hidden incentive, advice stops being a sales pitch and becomes what it should have been all along, someone genuinely on your side. So, are financial advisors worth it? Here is my best answer after 23 years. For most people with a normal financial life who simply want their savings to grow, no. You very probably do not need to pay anyone, and paying the wrong kind of someone could quietly cost you a small fortune. But for the minority with real complexity, or who need a steady hand to stop them sabotaging themselves, the right advisor, independent, fee-only, working for you and not for the product, can be worth far more than they charge. The trap was never advisors. The trap is paying advice prices for what is really a sales pitch and never once seeing the bill. So, here is what I would leave you with. Before you hand anyone your money, find out the all-in fee and compare it to a simple index fund. That one comparison will tell you most of what you need to know. If your situation is straightforward, you have my full blessing to keep it boring. A low-cost global fund, automated and left alone. And if your situation genuinely is complicated, don't avoid advice. Go and find the right kind, pay for it openly, and ask the 3 questions on your way through the door. And one last thing, because it matters to me, and it's the whole reason this channel exists. I have nothing to sell you. There is no masterclass, no course, no book a call link waiting in description. If this saved you from a fee you would never have noticed, the only thing I would ask is that you subscribe, because in the next video I'm going to lay out the whole honest financial plan on a single page. The exact order to do things, from your first cushion of savings to a portfolio that quietly runs itself, so you always know what your money should be doing next. That's it. That is the entire pitch. And to be clear, as always, I am not a financial advisor and everything here is general education, not personal advice. If this gave you a clearer head about what you are actually paying for, or the words to protect someone you love from a fee they would never spot, a quick like genuinely helps it reach the next person who's about to sign something they don't fully understand. I'm Ivan, this is the Banker's Notes.